Hey everybody, Jason Sherman here. In today's episode of Zero to CEO, I have founder and CEO of Be the Change HR, Leilani Cure. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is exciting because this topic is very cool, social entrepreneurship insights, and this is an entrepreneurship podcast. So you have some great insights to give everybody that is listening and watching. I like the quote that you sent me about Mahatma Gandhi, be the change you wish to see in the world. That is so powerful because so many people out there, they don't really know how to change the world, and they wish they could. They have ideas and whatnot. So before we talk about business stuff, which is always obviously, the main topic, how do you see how do you do that? How do you change the world in your view? What's your secret?
I was just talking about this yesterday. If you take a look at the world and the current state or things that have happened, and you really start thinking about all of the terrible things that happen, right? It could be really, really overwhelming. And I think the way to overcome that is to really think about, well, what can I do? What can I do within myself in order to be a kinder, more gentle person? And what can I do in my own sphere of influence to make the world a better place? You can't solve world hunger. You can't end trafficking on your own. But what you can do is make sure that you dedicate part of what you do to make the thing that you are really passionate about better in this world. And that's how you really do it.
That's awesome. Great answer. And, what's funny is everybody feels so powerless. We're living in these historic moments where, like you mentioned, there's so many things happening at the same exact time between the war, pandemic, inflation, and the world falling apart, climate change.
Yeah.
So everyone feels so helpless. So the mindset of I don't matter because I'm only one person is false. Like obviously every person who can contribute to the world in some small way, it will change for the positive. Mm-hmm. How do you apply that to a company with employees? Because, same thing, the company is so big or so small. How does each person contribute in each way to keep the momentum going and make things go in the right direction?
Yeah, I think when you have a social impact business like we do, it becomes much easier. And then when you have, just a business that has a piece with corporate social responsibility, you really have to work, I think, a little bit harder. But the way to do that when it comes to making sure that the business, the impact that the business has to make the world a better place is felt by the individuals within the organization is to, well, include them. So make sure it is part of, the easy stuff, right? Your socials, your website, but the other stuff of where if your business is doing something to make the world a better place, make sure you integrate it into all the things you do. One great tip for everyone is, if you do this, it's a great interview question. You can ask the people who you're interviewing to make sure that the folks that you're bringing into your organization really tie in and they feel like that connection with what the business is doing. Ask them a question around that, or ask them maybe, how does volunteerism play a role in your life? And so you're already setting the stage of, there's a reason why you asked that, right? Because the business does these things. And so that can help sort of facilitate that sense of the business does something and I also am a stakeholder in that. And then you can weave that into lots of different things that the business does based on what that impact piece is.
That's great because the pandemic has brought us the Great Resignation. It has brought us now quiet quitting. I've noticed there's a lot of these new terms that are not new. They're old, but they've revamped them using, TikTok and things like that as to why people are saying, well, no, we don't need the jobs. You need us. And so we're going to put our foot down and, we don't care about you because you don't care about us. So how do you become an employer that people care about so that they do want to work for you? And it's not just a job, because that's what it is. In the end, it's just a job. You're getting a paycheck. But how do you make it more than that? How do you make it so that they care about what it is you're offering the public?
Yeah, it's to turn that around and care about the people that are working for you. One of the things that I do in this organization that's really, really important to me is that I always put my people first. Now, in theory, that sounds easy, right? Oh, that's
very easy.
Yeah. In reality, when things are going wrong in the business, whatever that looks like, or if something isn't going the way that the owner or leadership wants to, and you have someone also with a personal issue or they need, let's say, a simple example, time off, they come first. And so with this philosophy of always putting your people first, even when it's really uncomfortable, I think pays in droves if you can do that. And we do that here, and I'm really proud. I'm going to wince because I always get a little shy about our work environment. But I know we have an amazing culture, but part of that is people always first. I always have their back. If they make a mistake, I will take the fall, right?
And
then
you
we have
mentioned
a
being
coaching session after.
You mentioned being uncomfortable. I want to go back. You mentioned being uncomfortable,
Right.
and I want to know, for people listening who may be business owners, how do you get through that? Because that's a
Yeah.
very touchy topic. How do you get through those moments where, I have to do this with this employee or this with this employee, but it's uncomfortable? How do you get through those moments?
I love taking stuff at face value and saying that exact thing. Hey, I know this is uncomfortable. And then you can start. And because it just sets the stage, like we all know this is in, and it can be any situation.
Give me an example. Give me a good example of what people might go through.
This is such an HR answer. Okay, so if we were going to talk to and it's a difficult one. If you're going to talk to someone about, let's say, body odor, right?
Oh, geez.
Right?
You put deodorant on their desk, right? That's how you do it?
No, you don't, because that's not you.
It's a joke.
Right.
That's the wrong answer, right? So what's the right answer?
So putting them first is, and this is like, oh my gosh, like how am I going to have this conversation? And so it starts out, hey, this is going to be a uncomfortable conversation.
Right.
It might be even really painfully uncomfortable, but I want to have this conversation with you because I care about you. And again, it's going to be uncomfortable. So like, take a deep breath. I do this. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. I have to address something that has to do with your personal hygiene. And then you go into it.
Right.
And it's not like, hey, you need to wear deodorant. And it's like, let's start first. Is there something that you need, or something that I need to know to support you to like open up this conversation, to just talk about it? You're safe here. I'm not judging you.
Is there any way we can help you? Is there anything you need? Maybe their water was turned off at home. Yeah, maybe their water was shut off.
You never know. There's
they could be in between apartments.
Reasons.
Yeah. So many things. So it's really about acknowledging the fact that it's going to be awkward or uncomfortable, and then kind of going into it with that mindset, so that both parties understand. That makes sense.
And a deep breath, I think, helps too.
Well, if there's bad body odor, the deep breath might be tough.
I mean, yeah,
it's a tough one, but right? but I got you. So there's a pretty ubiquitous term in entrepreneurship. It's a fail fast, fire fast, and it's all about getting people in and out as quickly as possible to figure out who's good at their job and who's not. So how do you become a good firer, for the lack of a better term? How do you become someone who can fire quickly or well, so that people don't feel like, oh man, I was just fired? Because that can be very disconcerting to people. It could be, a damper on their mood, and then they might not want to get another job because they feel like they were worthless. How do you lift them up?
Yes. So, I mean, the first answer to this question is hire, right? But that doesn't happen. That's okay. It happens. And then the second is, whatever that path is to the person being let go, it needs to be taken gently and with respect for that other person, and with the understanding that they're a human being and they have a life and they have bills to pay and they've got, people maybe relying on them. And so to take it from that standpoint, to understand all those things makes the process, I think, a little bit easier when you start. Let's say it's bad performance, start coaching them on the bad performance. Let's say it's a layoff. I mean, this is really tough stuff. A loss of a job is one of the major losses, like death or divorce, right? So you have to, if you understand that.
Well, for a lot of people, it's their identity. For a lot of people, it's their identity. Like some people, like I know people have a job or career, and that's it. That's all they do all day long. And they get home, they don't really have any hobbies or interests. It's like besides binge watching. So when they lose their job, they're losing their identity. So how do you help someone through that?
Yeah, again, with the path of making sure it's gentle in whatever way you do that, and then the way that you offboard them and then offer support after. I mean, even if you don't like the person, it doesn't matter. Like, this is someone's livelihood. So in these conversations, there's services that do outplacement services, but even if you're like a small, business and you can't afford something like that, you can help, with resources of referrals. I know every entrepreneur out there has an amazing network. You can help with that. You can help with resume writing services and just general encouragement of, though, even though we're departing right now, I will help you to that next step by doing, and then fill in the blank, XYZ. Not forever. That's why I say you gotta put some parameters around it, but help them out to make that transition.
That's great. So you own a social enterprise business, and maybe others out there want to change the world in some small way or big way. And how can they get started on owning a social enterprise? What things should they look for in order to do that?
Yeah. I think the best way is to start to look at other businesses that are doing that, and then really figure, like, do I want to do this same model? Because the reason that a social impact business exists is to incite some type of change, right? So when people ask me, like, how should I get started? What should I do? I'm like, well, what are you passionate about? What's the one thing that you want to change in this world to make for the better? Because if you're really passionate about it and you care about it that much, then, I mean, all of us know this also in business, you're going to be successful at it because you care.
How do you translate that? Give me an example of someone who has a passion that might not be related to a social enterprise, because that's the tricky part, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'll take our business, for example. I think it's a great example.
Okay.
So human resources,
okay,
trafficking survivors. Where is the connection there?
Yeah, where is the connection? Okay, let me hear this. I'm interested.
So, quickly, what our business does besides human resources consulting is we provide free job readiness courses and classes to nonprofits who help trafficking survivors. Human resources professionals are the perfect person to teach you how to build a resume, what not to do, how to interview, what not to do, right? How to network, how to use LinkedIn, and also always what not to do in these situations.
And I'm assuming some PTSD therapy too, right? Some kind of traumatic survivor experience person to help.
You hit the nail on the head. Everyone in this organization goes through trauma-informed training before they do any of this work. And so it's like, that's how those two things came together. Now, did this happen overnight? Was it easy for me to come to this like whole program? No, it took years and years for me to figure.
I'm sure.
So that's why I'm saying, back to the answer to the question, it's like, look at the social impact models that you love. And there's some big ones out there, like Tom's, for example. That's like the Cadillac of all of this, sort of,
nice.
Every shoe you buy, a shoe goes to a kid in a third world country. So
cool. Yeah. And so I want to hear 3 actionable advice or insights for people wanting to jump into social enterprise that you would offer an entrepreneur listening.
Yeah. So the first one, pick something you're passionate about, right? The second is start to really look into other social impact models and see how they work. And then 3 is conceptualize on your own what yours would look like. And this is where you can really dream big, because the sky's the limit. Once you start seeing what other impact businesses are doing, you can see what the possibilities are for your own.
So it's really like emulating what's out there, but in your own way, with your own passions. That's really smart. And what I love about your company too is that you guys donate so much to charity. What what made you decide, okay, well, now I'm going to start giving back to charities and nonprofits? What was the catalyst for that moment?
I mean, it's just something in my heart that I've always had my whole adult life. So that's one of them.
Oh, I'm gonna cry.
Yeah, I know, right? And then the other is, so we dedicate 2% of our top line revenue to the program and to the donations that we do. So some of them are specific, focused on eradicating the world of trafficking.
It's a great cause.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's amazing. So where can people find out more about your company, and what do you want to leave everybody with?
Yeah. You can find us on the internet at bethechangehr.org or any of the social media platforms at bethechangehr.
Love it. And anything you want to leave our entrepreneurs who are interested in social enterprise?
Yeah, if you are interested in starting a business like ours and you want someone to kind of spitball some ideas with, just hit us up on any of those platforms and say, hey, Leilani said that I could reach out and ask for this advice, and I'd be happy to talk with anyone and help them on that journey.
You heard Leilani. Come after her online and ask her for advice, and she'll be glad to help you. Awesome. Thanks for being here. This was fantastic. And bethechangehr.org. Check her out online and be the social enterprise you want to be, right? Be the change you want to see.
Yep.
I love it.
Yep.
Awesome, Leilani. Thanks. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next episode.